Conversations from the Cave is a raw self-help podcast dedicated to discussing men's issues. From pornography to parenting, from religion to real life, from learning to loving. We discuss the real issues that affect real men every day. Join us each week for powerful, revealing Conversations from the Cave. Now your host, Kurt Kennedy.
This is Conversations from the Cave. I'm your host, Kurt Kennedy. Each Sunday, we get a panel of gentlemen together and talk about the issues that affect life and family and what it's like to be a man in this modern age. We have a panel of three exquisite gentlemen. To my right, Mustang. Can you give us a shout out, sir?
Hey, this is Mustang. Excited to be back with these awesome guys. Just ready to talk, guys.
And right in the middle, we've got B.A. B.A., can you give us a shout-out, sir?
This is B.A., and I love being in the middle, and let's change lives one word at a time.
And lastly, this time, we're joined by Nola. Nola, can you give us a shout-out, sir?
This is Nola73. Meet you where you at.
Gentlemen, we left off last week with a little bit of a cliffhanger. Nola we were talking about leadership, and we touched on priest, provider, and protector. And within that role, we specifically had Nola share that in the role of priesthood of a church-going man, he fell short and suddenly trained a weakness or an area of struggle into his son, which now his father's struggle has become his struggle. And we left off right there at that point, where practically speaking, how do we deal with that area of issue and conflict? Now, Mustang, I know you had a couple of quick comments that you wanted to make and cite a few examples before we get into the meat of this. So I'm going to let you get that off your chest first.
Oh, yeah. Just kind of wanted to, last time we talked about, and this is actually something you introduced, priest, provider, protector, and I think those are something that, I don't know if that's a staple that's kind of out there that every man should just be, and that's kind of out there for us to, to grasp or whatever. But that's kind of
it's kind of coalesced it into something that we can. It's not quite a mnemonic, but it's something that you can kind of group each aspect of manhood under.
Oh yeah, well, I kind of wanted to break that down for guys, and either relate it to how I relate it personally or how I do it in my family, real quick. So provider, pretty easy, working when you don't want to. So most of you guys know I work from home, so I do, auditions and stuff. But, to date, I've probably done anywhere from 3,700 to 4,000 auditions, and you might get, 100, 200, 300 of those. So that, equals out to thousands and thousands and thousands of auditions that you're just doing for free. I don't feel like doing auditions sometimes, a lot of the time, but that's my role as provider. I'm sure that, the guy out there roofing does not feel like roofing. But that is his role as a provider. And that's something that we do. And that kind of ties back to what Nola says. Sometimes I think there's some people that kind of take for granted what they have. But anyway, that to say that's the role of provider. Also a big thing, like when I'm fixing food for my family, and this has happened a few times actually lately, where I begin fixing a meal for the guys, the kids and my wife. And we have 5 people in my family. So sometimes I make 4.5 portions. That leaves one person with a half portion. If everybody's really hungry, I'll take that. I'll take the half portion. I'll sacrifice, eat that little portion. Not saying this to gloat, like, oh, I'm amazing or anything like that, because it doesn't even happen that often. It's probably happened 5 times, in the past, I don't know how many years. But long story short, it's happened. And I say, don't worry about it. I'll eat it. Or I'm going to give an example. We go out and get a bag of McDonald's and everybody gets, the food they want. And, my daughter or somebody else gets short some food. Well, I'll take the smaller amount. It's not a big deal. I'm dad. That's what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to sacrifice for you guys. I'm supposed to provide and make sure you guys have what you need. So there's that. Protector. Making sure the doors are locked is one thing, like I was saying. If you have a gun, making sure you know how to use it. Making sure you know how to use it safely. Making sure you have a fire plan, a tornado plan, a burglar plan, and then planning for it, preparing for it, practicing for it. One of the things that we do in my house is, for instance, if I'm not here, that me and my wife actually actively practice. We actually do this. I actually practice when I knock sometimes, is when my oldest daughter or my wife answers the door, because my littlest don't answer, they'll yell out 2 names. They'll yell out 2 names, male names in the house. So my name's Christopher David. So they're like, hey, Chris, David, I'm going to go grab the door. Okay. They'll yell that out, or if they feel like somebody's knocking on the door, beating on the door, and they feel that might be a threatening thing, and they don't see a police car, whatever, look out the window, they're afraid. They may say, Chris, David, grab a gun. I might not be in the house at all, but that's a practice for them So that way, if somebody hears that, oh goodness, there might be a guy or two inside. Hey, maybe we have other things we need to do other than breaking this house. So, planning for events like that, having a fire location, having hey guys, this is what we need to do. We need to go in the backyard, go to the neighbor's house, talk to them about it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And, we've done that in our family. And then lastly, priest. Let's call a spade a spade. I love how BA, he talks about it all the time. Jesus Christ, Jesus Christ. I know people are like, dude, I don't believe in Jesus. I listen to that. All right, let's just call a spade, guys. Look around you. Who made you? Who made you? Your mom was probably delighted when she found out you were a boy. She's probably happy, right? Or a girl if you're a lady and you're listening. She didn't make you, okay? The eyes that you see with, the mouth you eat with, I want you to literally right now take your time. We'll wait. All of us can wait. Point to the person who made your mouth, the person who made your eyes. Take your time. We'll be here, okay? Those mouth, those ears, no one sat at a workbench and made those. Okay? So understanding that there's a divine God, one divine God that created you and your family is critical to infuse that in them. Because then, like the exact thing that Nola was just telling you, okay, for a standard man, he's got to just go through himself as a barrier. He just has him and his morals as a barrier. Or maybe his morals, and then the feelings of his wife as a barrier. In order, as far as not committing adultery, not, like he said, sampling the menu, looking at the menu. But when you've got God, brother, you got a whole nother barrier, and that barrier is bigger than all the rest of them to get through in order to fight these things off. Okay? So that's something that's very critical to think about, too, when you're fulfilling the role of priest. So sorry I took a whole lot of time there, but I kind of wanted to define each and every aspect of that, if I can, the best that I could.
Oh, yeah. I think that it's important to define these roles, and citing examples is excellent, an excellent way to make sure that there's no confusion. I think we would like to harken back a little bit to let Nola bring us up to date. It's been a week since we talked about one of the challenges that he can see personally in his own life, and I don't think he's alone, and I can tell him that he definitely isn't alone in his challenge. But I think it would be nice for you to relate that story again so that you can bring us up to speed for those who may not have heard last week's show.
So, yes, this is NOLA73, Meet You Where You're At. And last week, I was just, I'm going to reiterate what I was talking about. And basically, we was talking about, the role of a strong man in a person's life. And as a kid, my role came from my father. And I thought, like me and my brothers, we all thought that our daddy, was the man, like any other kid, your daddy's the man. We've seen my daddy, run dogs off, big dogs that other folks would get bit by, how he would just grab us and move us out of the way and he'll take care of something. And, he just did so much. And that was our hero. And, when we was with him, we would go to church and we would sit down and, monitor and write down how many times the pastor, he instilled in us the things that we thought was beneficial and where we was going to go in the future with it. But as we started getting older, we started to see the slick side of my father, and we started to see that what he was showing us was good to the flesh, but it was not good for the soul. And what I mean by that is my fleshly desires craved what I was being exposed to, but my soul was being deprived. It was being starved because I wasn't getting the proper nutrients. I was getting Mustang said earlier, the candy, the cereal of the breakfast and for dinner and for lunch. But I was not getting the protein, the vitamins, the nutritions that I should have been getting if my daddy would have done the role that I think he should have done. But I have to also remember that, and I want the world to know also that just because you see different what your father has shown you, to a young lady, you see different from what your mother has shown you. We have to also remember that they only did the best that they could do. My daddy did what he knew how to do. Could I call my daddy selfish? Yes, I can call him selfish because to this day, my daddy is still doing what he showed me how to do, which is to be a whore. And what he did was created a struggle for me. And even though I'm saying he created a struggle for me, I still choose to do right. But my daddy had the ability to do right. He just allowed his flesh to dominate what is his moral is. And so he's living a lifestyle that is pleasing to him because to him, he thinks it's the right thing to do. And one thing I said last week that I want everybody to understand is that sometimes people would take the word of God and they would infuse it to get what they want out of it. And my daddy showed me that what he was doing was right because he used David's lifestyle and he used his son Solomon's lifestyle. And everybody, if they know the story of David and Solomon, David had many women and Solomon 10 times more than his daddy did. My daddy had many women and I had 100 times more than my daddy did. And so what my daddy was doing was just perpetuating a situation that had become a cycle. My son hadn't caught up to me yet. I have a boy that is 18. And granted, he has been with a lot of women, but he haven't been with a lot of women. And let me clarify that when I say this. My oldest son has dated a lot of women, but I'm grateful and very blessed that he hasn't slept with any of them. But I've been
wow,
to
that's
him.
great. That's great.
Right.
That's really great.
So I've talking to him, and I remember just a couple of years ago when my son was graduating, he came to me and he said, "Daddy, this young lady that he's been dating, we are real serious, and we've been talking about sleeping together for the prom." And I talked to him for about a month. "Son, you can't do this." I pleaded with him and I begged him, "Son, you can't. You don't want to open up that can of worms." These are some of the scenarios that I laid out. I said, you can do it wrong to this young lady because she was a virgin at the same time. I said, you can do it wrong to this young lady and she can be turned off from it. I said, you can go in there and you can do it right to this young lady and it can perpetuate her to become more sexual oriented and more, and want to experience more and more and more. I said, so you don't want to open up that can of worms. I said, trust me, if you wait till you're married, God is going to bless you. He's going to make sure that that's the woman he wants for you. And both of y'all can wait. Daddy, but we grown, we can talk. I said, okay, son, I see that I can't get through to you. I said, I need you to do me one favor. And for a week, he was like, Daddy, I still want to know what that one favor. I said, if you can just make me a promise, I promise you. Just make me a promise. And he, it was one of those promises that a parent would give to their child without giving them the details. And I just wanted him to make that promise. He said, okay, Daddy, I promise you. I said, listen, you have my permission to sleep with this young lady on one condition. He was like, what's that? I said, sit her mother and her father down because you said you're a man, and tell that mother and that father that you want to take, and I say take, their daughter's virginity. And he thought I was the worst.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what I would have said. That's exactly.
I love it. I love it.
Just, if you man enough to do it, you man enough to tell somebody you're going to do it. Because that's what you have to do when you get married. You have to go to their parents and step up to the plate and say, listen, I believe I'm man enough to take and have your daughter for the rest of my life, and I want to take care of her. If he's man enough to want to sleep with her, then he ought to be man enough for the responsibility of the situation. Good point.
Yes.
Speak that truth, Noah. Speak that truth.
Yeah. And so again, my son thought I was the crazy. He didn't speak to me for a whole week, and then he finally called me like, Daddy, I'm sorry. I just was very upset. You would say something to me like that. I said, let me tell you something. I said, I gave you a choice, and you said that you promised that you would adhere to it. I said, but listen. I said, have you ever in your life stole anything? He was like, no, Daddy, I would never do that. I said, so why you want to steal this young lady's virginity? He said, but we grown. I said, but it's still theft. I said, God, first of all, didn't give it to you, and God didn't tell her to give it to you, because if she was told by God to give it to you, then y'all both would have got married. So when I showed it to him in the Bible, see what people don't understand, and BA can definitely contest to this. When you say thou shalt not steal, that doesn't mean just taking something, that's a candy bar. We say thou shalt not steal. Everything that we talk about from the biblical aspect is more spiritual than it is, physical. We create sin with the physical form, but from the spiritual form, we kill the flesh. And so when I explained it to him that when you take something that's not for you, that is a form of stealing. You going to this woman and y'all just talking. I said, but her body doesn't belong to her right now. It's the temple of God's. And when I explained it to him and showed it to him, I promise you, not less than about 7 months later, my son was emailing me saying, Daddy, I want you to come down for my baptism. Why? Because it took understanding of the word. See, one of the things that I would tell people is, don't get mad at the pastor because you're not understanding the word. There's a lot of support groups. There's people that literally will sit down with you and explain what the text means, because it's not just particular for that message. It's bigger than that. It's more spiritual than it is physical.
That's a beautiful point. And many decisions, it says out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. And a lot of times by what we think on, that drives our actions. It's interesting that you took the approach of making him responsible